What if the real purpose of money isn't to accumulate, but to live? Most of us focus on earning, saving, and spending, but life rarely feels richer as the numbers grow. In this chapter, we explore the crossover point, the moment when money stops being a measure of security and starts enabling experiences, connection, and meaning. It's the shift from tracking dollars to living fully, discovering what truly matters in each day, recognizing the crossover. For most of our lives, money is a numbers game. We track income, monitor expenses, and measure savings. We focus on accumulating, comparing, and keeping score. Yet at some point, many people reach a subtle but profound shift, the crossover, where financial awareness transforms into a tool for living rather than merely surviving. Recognizing this point is less about a specific dollar amount and more about mindset. It's the moment when you realize that money is not the end goal. It is a means to experience life more fully. Before the crossover, attention is often on scarcity. Even as income rises, there is a tendency to spend or save compulsively, measuring self-worth through balances, possessions, or status symbols. Life feels constrained by numbers. Bills must be paid, savings must grow, and every dollar has a job. This creates a cycle where the focus is on security, control, and preparation for some imagined future. While these habits are valuable for building stability, they rarely translate into daily fulfillment. The crossover occurs when you shift from thinking in terms of security alone to thinking in terms of living intentionally. At the crossover point, the question changes. Instead of asking, "Can I afford this?" you begin asking, "Will this choice enhance my life?" The focus moves from accumulation to alignment. Income, expenses, and savings are no longer ends in themselves, but tools to support values, relationships, and experiences. You may notice it in small ways: a deliberate dinner with friends, an unhurried morning with coffee on the porch, a weekend spent exploring a hobby rather than chasing discounts or obligations. These moments, often overlooked, become far more valuable than any numerical milestone. The wall chart, or any other tracking method, still matters after the crossover, but its role changes. It no longer exists primarily to create pressure or measure strict progress. Instead, it becomes a guide, a compass pointing toward freedom. You can see trends and gaps, yes, but now you also ask, how can I use this knowledge to live better? The chart transforms from a ledger of constraint into a map of opportunity. It empowers you to make decisions consciously, aligning financial choices with personal values rather than fear or habit. Recognizing the crossover also involves understanding trade-offs. Every dollar saved or spent carries opportunity costs. Before the crossover, these decisions are often framed in fear, saving for the future, avoiding debt, or keeping up appearances. After the crossover, the framing shifts to purpose. Will this expenditure, investment, or choice enrich life? Will it deepen relationships, cultivate skills, or create memories? The moment you begin weighing dollars against living, you've crossed into a mindset where money supports rather than defines your existence. Psychologically, this shift is liberating. Many people experience a subtle but profound relief when they move from scarcity thinking to intentional living. Decisions that once felt stressful now become opportunities for creativity and experimentation. Budgeting, saving, and spending are no longer exercises in self-denial, but tools to design a life you value. You may find yourself letting go of habits that once seemed necessary, cutting subscriptions you don't use, saying no to obligations that drain energy, and prioritizing experiences over possessions. The crossover is unique to each person. There is no universal threshold, no magic number. It is measured in awareness, not dollars. One person may reach it at modest income levels by prioritizing what matters most. Another may need years of disciplined saving before they feel secure enough to focus on living. Regardless of timing or financial situation, the key is the shift in perspective. Money becomes a servant of life, not its master. Importantly, the crossover is not an end point. It is the beginning of a phase in which decisions are consciously guided by purpose, meaning, and experience. Financial tracking, budgeting, and strategic saving remain valuable, but their significance is reframed. Each choice is evaluated not by how it adds to a balance sheet, but by how it adds to life. This perspective allows freedom to coexist with discipline and security to coexist with joy. Ultimately, recognizing the crossover is about reclaiming agency. It is about seeing that money is not life itself, but a set of tools that, when used intentionally, can shape life into something richer, more connected, and more fulfilling. When you reach this point, you begin spending in a way that serves living, not merely surviving, and that is the essence of the crossover. Shifting focus from accumulation to experience. After reaching the crossover, the way you think about money begins to change fundamentally. Instead of seeing it primarily as a tool for accumulation, you start seeing it as a resource for experience, engagement, and fulfillment. This shift is subtle but powerful. Spending no longer feels like loss, saving no longer feels like restriction, and earning is no longer just a means to pay bills. Money becomes a servant of life, enabling choices that align with your values and priorities rather than dictating them. Before this shift, financial decisions are often reactive or habit-driven. Paychecks arrive, bills are paid, leftover money is stored away, or sometimes spent impulsively. Life is structured around obligations rather than opportunities. The focus is on security, debt avoidance, emergency funds, and long-term savings. While these practices are essential, they can inadvertently overshadow the present, making everyday life feel constrained or muted. The crossover changes this dynamic. Once the crossover is recognized, decisions begin to center on meaning. Each choice is evaluated for its ability to enrich life. That may mean spending on travel to experience new cultures, investing in a hobby that nurtures creativity, or allocating resources to deepen relationships. Even modest choices, a shared meal, a local excursion, or a learning opportunity, carry more weight than before because they are made intentionally. The mindset shifts from "how much can I save" to "how can this money enhance my life?" This does not imply reckless spending. Discipline remains essential. Financial awareness does not disappear after the crossover. The difference is in intention and alignment. Savings and budgeting continue to provide security, but they are no longer the ultimate measure of success. The wall chart or other tracking methods evolve alongside your mindset, becoming a tool for maximizing life rather than simply recording numbers. You can see the impact of intentional spending on both your finances and your daily satisfaction. The shift also involves understanding opportunity costs with new clarity. Every dollar spent or saved carries potential consequences. Prior to the crossover, these trade-offs are framed primarily around scarcity, missing future security, or falling short of targets. Afterward, the framing emphasizes fulfillment. What experiences, growth, or relationships will this choice enable? Money becomes a medium for realizing your priorities rather than a goal in itself. This mindset cultivates gratitude and presence. When you spend intentionally, each purchase or investment is noticed, appreciated, and integrated into the story of your life. You begin to savor experiences rather than simply accumulate things. Simple pleasures, a meal with friends, a quiet morning, an afternoon spent outdoors, gain significance because your choices consciously support them. Financial freedom is measured not by numbers alone, but by how fully you are living. The crossover also encourages experimentation. You may test different ways to allocate money to see what brings the most satisfaction. Perhaps cutting back on unnecessary subscriptions frees resources for a creative pursuit. Maybe investing in learning or health produces longer-term happiness than buying a luxury item. The process becomes iterative. Track results, reflect on what brings genuine value, and adjust. Your financial decisions are now a tool for learning what makes life richer, not simply what keeps you safe. Relationships gain new importance in this phase. Money choices are considered not only for personal satisfaction, but also for how they affect loved ones. Shared experiences, support, and generosity take on new prominence. The crossover highlights that living well often involves connection, and intentional spending can foster it. Wealth is no longer isolated. It becomes a conduit for shared meaning. Ultimately, the shift from accumulation to experience transforms everyday life. Money is no longer a source of anxiety, a measure of self-worth, or a pursuit in itself. It is a tool for creating the conditions in which life can flourish, rich in experiences, relationships, and purpose. Recognizing and acting on this shift is the essence of moving from simply surviving with money to truly living with it. Rewriting the rules of spending. Once you cross over from scarcity to intentional living, spending takes on a new meaning. Money is no longer just a tool for survival or accumulation. It becomes a means to shape your life according to your values. The rules of spending change. Every purchase, investment, or decision is now weighed not just in terms of cost, but in terms of contribution to happiness, purpose, or experience. The act of spending transforms from a mechanical necessity into a conscious choice that reflects what matters most to you. Before this shift, spending is often driven by habit, social pressure, or fear. We buy what is convenient, what others expect, or what seems necessary to maintain a sense of security. Purchases are measured against a checklist of must-haves, often disconnected from personal fulfillment. Money becomes transactional rather than transformational. The crossover disrupts this pattern by introducing intentionality. Suddenly, the question is no longer, can I afford it? But, will this choice improve my life in a meaningful way? This conscious approach allows you to differentiate between needs, wants, and meaningful expenditures. Needs remain essential: housing, food, transportation, but wants are now examined for their true value. Not all pleasures are equal. A fancy gadget may provide momentary satisfaction, but a shared experience with friends, a personal creative project, or a course that develops your skills may deliver far greater long-term fulfillment. Intentional spending prioritizes experiences and investments that align with personal values rather than fleeting trends or social comparison. The crossover also encourages reframing sacrifice. Before, saving often feels like deprivation. After, it becomes an investment in choice and freedom. Every dollar not spent on non-essential items is a dollar that increases flexibility, opportunities, and potential experiences. You start to view money as a lever to create life rather than a measure of status. The act of saving is no longer about restriction. It's about creating the capacity to live on your own terms. Behavioral change is key in this phase. Recognizing impulses, reflecting on patterns, and making deliberate decisions become routine. Small adjustments compound over time. Skipping a mindless purchase, redirecting funds toward a meaningful activity, or choosing to invest in growth can have disproportionate effects on both happiness and financial resilience. The wall chart, spreadsheets, or budgeting tools remain useful, but their purpose evolves. They now support intentional living by showing where choices align with values and where adjustments are needed. Generosity and connection become central. Intentional spending often extends beyond self-interest. Money can be allocated to experiences that deepen relationships, support others, or contribute to community. Giving, sharing, and investing in meaningful causes are now part of the equation. The crossover teaches that wealth is not only about what you keep, but also about the richness you create in life, yours and others. Importantly, this phase is iterative. You may experiment with different spending patterns, track the impact on satisfaction, and adjust accordingly. Not every choice will yield the same reward, and some lessons come through trial and error. Over time, however, a clearer picture emerges of what truly matters, and spending becomes a conscious tool to craft life rather than a reaction to circumstance. Ultimately, the crossover rewrites the rules of money. Spending is no longer a neutral, transactional act. It becomes a conscious reflection of priorities, values, and aspirations. Each decision becomes a brushstroke in the canvas of your life, where money serves living, not the other way around. The result is a life guided by intention, enriched by experiences, and shaped by the choices that truly matter. Aligning money with values. The true power of the crossover emerges when financial decisions are consciously aligned with personal values. Money, in itself, is neutral. It is neither good nor bad. Its significance comes from how it is used. Before the crossover, spending and saving are often dictated by external pressures, bills, expectations, or comparisons to others. Afterward, the focus shifts inward. What do your choices say about what you value, who you want to be, and how you want to live? This alignment transforms money from a tool of survival into a tool of intentional living. The first step in alignment is awareness. Take stock of your priorities, relationships, health, personal growth, learning, leisure, creativity, or contribution to others. Then consider how your spending patterns either support or contradict these priorities. You may notice misalignments, subscriptions you never use, unnecessary purchases, or expenses driven by habit or social expectation. Seeing these gaps clearly allows for conscious adjustments, creating a financial life that reflects rather than undermines your values. Intentional living requires decisions that favor experiences and fulfillment over accumulation. For instance, investing in a course that develops a skill may yield long-term satisfaction far beyond a temporary purchase of material goods. Sharing money on meaningful activities, travel, family experiences, community engagement creates memories and relationships that cannot be replicated with objects alone. By measuring each expense against the life you want to lead, money becomes a vehicle for fulfillment rather than a source of stress. This alignment also encourages thoughtful trade-offs. Every choice involves opportunity cost, and the crossover mindset makes these costs explicit. Spending on a fleeting pleasure may reduce the ability to fund meaningful experiences later. Conversely, delaying a non-essential purchase to free resources for a valued activity reinforces intentionality. These decisions become less about restriction and more about prioritization, enabling a life rich with purpose rather than cluttered with accumulation. The wall chart, or any tracking system, supports alignment by making these choices visible. Rather than simply tracking totals, the chart can highlight where money is going relative to priorities. Color-coded categories, notes on meaningful expenditures, or reflections on impact can transform a simple ledger into a mirror of values. Month by month, you can see whether spending aligns with intention or drifts into habit. This visual feedback makes adjustments easier and strengthens accountability. Psychologically, aligning money with values reinforces satisfaction and reduces anxiety. When resources are spent on what truly matters, the sense of control grows. Regret diminishes because choices are conscious rather than impulsive. Decisions no longer feel like a burden, they feel like an expression of identity. Over time, this alignment fosters resilience. Even if income fluctuates or unexpected expenses arise, the focus remains on maintaining coherence between financial behavior and life priorities. Alignment also expands to generosity and community. Financial freedom is not just about self-sufficiency, but about contributing to others and fostering meaningful connections. Giving, supporting causes, or investing in shared experiences strengthens relationships and cultivates purpose. The crossover makes these decisions intentional. Rather than feeling like obligations, acts of generosity are expressions of values, integrated into the rhythm of life rather than tacked on as afterthoughts. Ultimately, aligning money with values transforms financial management into life design. Each decision, whether saving, spending, or investing, becomes a deliberate step toward living authentically. money ceases to dominate your choices. Instead, it supports the life you want, enabling experiences, relationships, and personal growth. In this way, the crossover is not just a financial milestone, it is a philosophical shift, a moment when money truly becomes a tool for living rather than merely a measure of survival or success. Designing life with financial freedom. The crossover allows a profound transformation. Money becomes a means to intentionally design your life rather than a source of stress or limitation. With financial awareness and discipline established, the next step is to consciously use your resources to create the conditions for a life you truly want. This process goes beyond budgeting or saving. It is about shaping experiences, choices, and priorities so that your financial behavior reflects your values and vision. Designing life starts with clarity about what matters most. Take time to identify the areas that bring meaning, joy, and fulfillment. Is it spending time with family, cultivating a hobby, traveling, learning new skills, contributing to the community, or creating memorable experiences? Once priorities are clear, financial choices become strategic. Money is no longer something you chase or worry about. It becomes a deliberate instrument to support the life you envision. Intentional allocation of resources is central. Before the crossover, spending is often reactive. Bills, obligations, and immediate desires dictate where money goes. Afterward, every expenditure is evaluated against your priorities. You might decide to spend more on experiences that deepen relationships, invest in health and personal growth, or contribute to causes that matter. Conversely, you may consciously reduce spending on items that offer little satisfaction or alignment with values. The focus is quality over quantity, experience over accumulation, purpose over habit. Flexibility is also key. Designing life with financial freedom does not mean rigid planning. Life is unpredictable, and opportunities often arise unexpectedly. The crossover mindset allows for adaptability, using money strategically to respond to possibilities rather than being constrained by fear or routine. A well-designed life balances structure and spontaneity. Savings and planning provide security, while intentional spending enables exploration, learning, and adventure. The wall chart or other tracking tools remain valuable in this phase, but their role evolves. They are no longer primarily instruments of control, they become instruments of insight. By visualizing how spending aligns with values, you can see whether financial decisions support your intended life path. Adjustments can be made consciously, reinforcing alignment and ensuring that resources are consistently directed toward meaningful outcomes. This phase also emphasizes the importance of reflection. Periodically reviewing choices, tracking progress, and evaluating whether expenditures enhance life fosters continual improvement. Small, deliberate adjustments accumulate over time, creating a compounding effect not only on savings, but on satisfaction and fulfillment. Reflection ensures that the design of life remains intentional and aligned with evolving priorities. Generosity and shared experiences take on new significance. With the crossover mindset, money is not solely about personal benefit, but also about enriching the lives of others. Investing in relationships, supporting causes, or creating shared memories amplifies fulfillment. These choices are deliberate, not obligatory, and they extend the impact of financial freedom beyond individual gain. Finally, designing life with financial freedom creates confidence and empowerment. Instead of reacting to circumstances, you proactively shape your environment, experiences, and habits. The crossover transforms money from a source of stress into a tool for creativity, intentionality, and living fully. Each decision becomes a reflection of values, each choice a step toward a life that is not only sustainable but deeply satisfying. Ultimately, this stage is about transformation, from merely tracking money to using it to craft a meaningful, purposeful existence. Financial awareness becomes a foundation for living intentionally, and the crossover completes the shift from surviving with money to thriving with it. Money is no longer the master, It is a servant that enables you to live a life aligned with your deepest priorities. Living intentionally. Every day. Reaching the crossover point is not a one-time achievement. It is an ongoing practice of intentional living. The true value of financial awareness is realized when it informs daily decisions, guiding how time, energy, and money are spent. Each day becomes an opportunity to align choices with what matters most, rather than reacting to habit, social pressure, or fear. This consistent focus transforms money from a constraint into a tool that supports life on your terms. Daily intentionality begins with mindfulness. Simple acts, pausing before purchases, reflecting on whether an expense supports values, or noticing the quality of experiences, make spending more conscious. Even routine decisions, such as grocery shopping, commuting, or leisure activities, can be approached intentionally. Over time, these small moments accumulate, shaping patterns that reinforce both financial health and personal fulfillment. Intentionality is not about perfection. It is about bringing awareness and choice to everyday life. Integration is key. Living intentionally does not mean separating money from life or obsessively tracking every transaction. Instead, financial awareness is integrated seamlessly with your routines, priorities, and relationships. The wall chart or budgeting tools continue to provide insight, but they are no longer the center of attention. They support reflection, help identify misalignments, and guide adjustments, while the focus remains on experiences, connection, and growth. The crossover also deepens resilience. When money is viewed as a tool rather than a goal, setbacks, unexpected expenses, income fluctuations, or financial mistakes are easier to navigate. Each challenge becomes a learning opportunity rather than a source of stress or fear. Because decisions are grounded in values rather than fear, you maintain perspective, adapt strategies, and continue prioritizing what truly matters. This resilience strengthens confidence and fosters a sense of control over life, independent of short-term circumstances. Relationships gain new dimension in intentional living. Spending decisions are considered in the context of shared experiences, mutual support, and contribution to community. Money becomes a conduit for deepening connections, enabling experiences, giving meaningful gifts, or investing in collaborative projects. The crossover mindset transforms financial behavior from a solitary activity into a social and relational one, reinforcing bonds and creating lasting memories. Reflection and adaptation remain ongoing practices. The crossover is not static. Priorities evolve, opportunities emerge, and circumstances change. By regularly reviewing financial and life decisions, assessing alignment with values, and making deliberate adjustments, you ensure that daily choices remain purposeful. This cycle of reflection, adjustment, and action sustains both financial freedom and a rich, meaningful life. Ultimately, living intentionally every day is the culmination of the crossover. Money, discipline, and awareness are no longer ends in themselves. They are integrated into the art of living fully. Each decision, how you earn, save, spend, and invest, is considered in light of its contribution to a life of purpose, connection, and joy. The crossover completes its promise when financial management and daily living converge, creating a life where money serves living rather than controlling it. By embracing intentional living, you transform the abstract concept of financial freedom into tangible, everyday experiences. The discipline, insight, and reflection cultivated throughout your journey become tools for creating a life that is meaningful, fulfilling, and aligned with your deepest values. Money is no longer merely tracked, it is harnessed, enabling a life designed with purpose, curiosity, and joy. That wraps up Crossover, from spending to living. We've explored how financial awareness evolves into intentional living, turning money from a measure of survival into a tool for meaningful experiences, growth, and connection. With this mindset, each choice reflects your values and priorities. Next, we move to the final step. Understanding money not just as currency, but as a form of life energy and learning how to direct it to fully support the life you want.